Welcome to another episode of Real Estate, Real Life, Real Talk, Real Live with your host, myself, Damon, the agent, where I come to you each and every Friday at 12 noon to talk to you about the latest real estate topics. And also, if any topics of discussion has been hot or a topic comes to mind, I'd like to talk to you about that. Let me take a sip. Coffee is for closers. I don't drink coffee, but I'm definitely a closer. So, real quick, do me a favor, everyone. Please follow me on all social media platforms. I am on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, and Snapchat. Please follow me, especially follow me also on YouTube. And if you have any real estate questions, please go ahead on and post them so we can get to those in a few minutes. Now, as always, I like to begin my show talking about the latest world of real estate. And this week's topic is actually tax equity. And you might be saying, what is tax equity? Well, I'm glad that you asked. Tax equity is actually, many people are unaware that when people sell a property and the equity that they gain, excuse me, from the sale of their property. Now, what people think is, oh, that's just free money. And truthfully, it's not. Whenever Uncle Sam know that you're getting money, they're going to tax it. The only way that you don't get taxed on money is if it's cash. Anything that has your name written on it or that you get as far as a profit, Uncle Sam wants a piece of it. The same goes for real estate. Now, I want to explain to you all that there's a thing called capital gains tax in real estate. And capital gains tax is basically tax that, people are taxed at certain percentages depending on their income tax bracket. And it also depends on how much equity that they're actually getting back. So depending on the amount that you're getting, you have to speak to your CPA, your tax advisor, because the money that you get back from the sale of your property is going to be taxed, especially if it's a significant amount. For example, let's say you got 100,000 back as equity. Now, that's going to add on to whatever your earnings were that year. So that's going to put you in a different tax bracket. Let's say hypothetically you're taxed at 20%. That means even though you got that 100% back, 20% of that is owed to the taxes. So you have to give that to the tax people, in which that's $20,000. Now, some people may just think, oh, I got the whole 100,000. But then when tax season rolls around, which it is about to roll around, many people get caught up in tax situations because they didn't factor that in. And some people actually blow through the money fast. So you have to take into consideration that whenever you're selling a property and you're getting a profit, you have to actually factor in the taxes. That is the reason why when you go to settlement, after settlement, the title companies tend to send you a 1099. They always ask for a forwarding address. And one of the things that you're going to get in that forwarding address is a 1099 from the title company, because the amount of money and proceeds that you receive from the sale of your property has to be calculated when you do your taxes. And you know why? Because that money has to be reported from the title company to the IRS. And the IRS is going to factor that in when you go in and file your taxes. So they're going to look at what you file, what you put on there as your amount, and they're going to look at that. And if you don't report it, guess what? The IRS has a way of taxing you more than what you should actually be paying. So basically, you just want to factor in the fact that the equity is being taxed. No, it's not free money. If you sell your house and you get 500,000 back as equity, please keep into consideration that 500,000 is going to be taxed. So again, let's say if it's 20%, that means 100,000 of that needs to be put away for taxes. Again, speak with um, your CPA, because of the fact is they are the ones who can advise you properly as far as what you will owe. It also depends on which tax bracket you fall in. But again, I'm just sharing this information because some people think like, oh, we're getting 100,000. I have a client right now that's actually going to get a little bit of change. And this is another reason why you want to have things set up a right way. She has brothers and sisters in which she has to split the proceeds. So a lot of times, if the money's not set up in a trustee and everything, the person name that the proceeds is sent to, that's going to be the person that end up getting taxed. So let's say hypothetically, if a person was getting back 300,000, and you had to split that among your siblings. So it's three of you all, and with your siblings, you get 100,000, you get 100,000, you keep 100,000, but the proceeds were sent directly to you. What ends up happening is you get taxed on that whole 300,000. They receive tax-free money while you have to pay taxes on all of that, and it's not fair to that individual. So when you're doing such a thing as the proceeds have to be split up, again, speak with a trustee and also speak with your CPA, because they can advise you the best way as far as to handle those things. And it eliminates the tax responsibilities on you. So in this country that we live in, everything is taxed, whether it's pre-tax or after tax. Everything is taxed except cash. Whenever money's involved and they know your name is on it, guess what? There's a tax that's associated to it. Even when we pay our cell phone bills right now, we see all these broken down of technology, communication, all these extra taxes that they add on to it. Everything is taxed. So that's why there's a saying that said the only thing people is guaranteed is death and taxes. The reason why they say taxes is because that's guaranteed as long as money is involved, your name is on it. If cash is involved, they can't trace cash, but they can trace anything that has your name on it that you're getting money for. And when people sell real estate, they're getting a lump sum of money. And guess what? Uncle Sam wants a piece of that lump sum. So factor in the taxes with that equity, because your equity is taxed, people. So I just want you all to know the equity is taxed. Don't think that's just free money. Yes, you might sell it and you might walk away with 250, but that 250 is taxed, because that 250 is going to be reported by the title company to the IRS that you walked away with 250. So when you think you're going to take these nice vacations, do all these things, you're going to blow through that 250 and you haven't set aside any money for the taxes, you end up getting yourself in trouble next year. So what we want to do is make sure that no one is getting in trouble with the taxes, because I myself have a tax obligation to the state and also to the IRS. So I have a tax bill to both that I have to pay. And it's not fun. It's not fun at all when you owe taxes. And I don't want anyone else to be in tax problems like I am. Please. So please understand that equity is taxed. And I want you all to really put that in your mind. So when you're selling your property and you're getting that money back, it's not all free money. That money is taxed. Speak to your CPA about that, and also anyone else when it pertains to that. So please understand the equity is taxed, and depending on if you're in the capital gains, depending on where you fall at in your tax bracket, is going to determine how much taxes that you actually owe. So that's why I keep saying speak with a CPA. And if you have to split money when you're selling the properties, also speak with a trustee. All right. All right. Make sure you'll add your questions, y'all. I'll be right back with my Q&A, questions and answers. Right. All right, all right, all right, all right. I am back. Q&A. Again, as always, y'all, please follow me on all social media platforms. Please follow me on TikTok, Snapchat, Threads, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. I'm on all of them, so find me on all of them. You can also find me through my website, which is damontheagent.com. So if you want to find any of my social media platforms, just go to damontheagent.com. You see it at the bottom, strolling apart. You can find all my social media platforms. And if you need to go back, because like I said before, there was some issues with Facebook, to see any of my previous podcasts and the topics that I talked about, please go to my YouTube channel. I thank each and every one of you all. So right now I'm going to go into the Q&A. This is the questions and answer segment of my show, where I answer all real estate questions that people may ask. The first question is the deed in lieu of foreclosure like a voluntary repossession? Is the deed in lieu of foreclosure like a voluntary repossession? The answer to that is yes. And that is a great question. Deed in lieu is offered to people who get behind on their mortgage payment and they're potentially facing foreclosure. So a lot of times the mortgage companies would tend to reach out to the homeowner and give them the offer of a deed in lieu. Now, keep this in mind, just like with a voluntary repossession, when you do a deed in lieu, it still shows up on your credit like a foreclosure. For example, let's say you owed 500,000 on your home and you gave a deed in lieu of foreclosure to your mortgage company. And what they would tend to do is reach out to a local real estate agent to sell your house slightly less than what you owe on it. So let's say you owe 500, they put it on the market for 350. They know that's below market value, so they're going to get some offers on that. That $150,000 difference, the mortgage companies are already insured for that, so they're getting their money back anyway. But here's the thing: let's say they sell that at 350, and you owed 500. That $150,000 difference, they're going to slap on your credit now. You're going to get a lot of calls because you defaulted on the loan and you have a balance of $150,000 now. So yes, a deed in lieu of foreclosure is like a voluntary repossession. You're voluntary like foreclosing on your property, and that's what it is. I always strongly try to advise people that instead of doing a deed in lieu, call me, call an agent like myself to put your house on the market, because you stand a better chance making a profit even when your house is going into foreclosure than to just voluntarily give it to it where you're not going to get anything at all. I had a similar situation years ago where there was a guy who reached out to me. He reached out to me on a Sunday. I listed his house on a Monday. We had a contract Monday night. As he was signing the contract, he told me he had a sale date of that upcoming Friday. My question was, why didn't you reach out to me sooner? Because he said he didn't know what to do. He was embarrassed, which I completely understand. But he had equity in his home over $150,000. That when I reached out to the bank at that time, because they said he was so far behind, they didn't want to accept the contract. Even they were going through with the foreclosure. He gave up $150,000 in equity because he didn't reach out sooner. But I'm sure he received the deed in lieu offers and everything. Again, instead of just giving your home away, put it on the market. You have nothing to lose, because if you do a voluntary foreclosure, which is a deed in lieu, it's going to go on your credit like a foreclosure anyway. If you try to sell your house and everything, and guess what? Nothing beats a failure but a try. So if you sell it and you sell it before the foreclosure date, guess what ends up happening? If you have any equity in that home, you will get that equity rather than just giving a house to the mortgage company and you get nothing out of it. So in situations like that, it's very sensitive, and I completely understand, because people invest time, money, blood, sweat, and tears into a home, especially over years. They build memories. So it's not as always easy to just let go. So I completely understand, but that is an option for you rather than just doing a deed in lieu of foreclosure. Second question is, do people still do rent to own properties? Do people still do rent to own properties? This is a good question. Yes, people still do rent to own property, but the reason why you don't see them as popular as before is because there's been a lot of legal situations with tenants and landlords with the rent to own properties. For example, usually in a lease for a rent to own property, there are stipulations in there that say that if the tenant is late, that they automatically default on the extra money that they paid on the rent, which normally goes towards the down payment at the end of the term. You have some tenants who want to purchase the property in they want to purchase it at the price the property was worth in the beginning. You have the sellers who want the tenants to purchase it at the maximum amount, which is usually at the end. A lot of times there's legal battle between that. There's also the fact that most rent-to-own properties are priced slightly above market value because the difference goes towards your down payment. For example, let's say that the market value is $2,000 a month. You'll agree to pay $2,500. That extra $500 a month at the end of the term, which is normally a 2-year minimum on a rent-to-own, that 500 different normally goes towards the down payment, in which the landlord slash owner is actually saving that money for the tenant to use when they purchase the home with the rent to own option. But like I said, but because there's been so many legal situations with the rent to own, it is not as popular as it once was, and you can find it still because it's still out there. but you just really have to look and ask for it. But nowadays, there's so many homeowners slash landlord who would rather either just rent straight out or just sell straight out because they don't want to deal with the hassle or headache. Okay. Another question is, when behind on mortgage payment, is it a good idea to ask the mortgage company if they could put the missed payments on the back of the loan? When behind on mortgage payment, is it a good idea to ask the mortgage company if they could put the missed payments on the back of the loan? Now, here's the thing. Is it a good idea? I don't think so. I would. This is what I would say. I just had a client recently who had a similar situation. Um, she was actually selling her home. During COVID, she got caught up in a situation where she wasn't working. Many people wasn't working, so she got behind on her mortgage payment. What ended up happening is she asked the mortgage company to do exactly that. She went to sell her property. She found out that a second lien was put out on her property because the mortgage company created a second lien, which the equity, the amount that she was paying for her mortgage did not equivalent to the second lien. The second lien was actually like 2.5 times more than what she was paying on a mortgage, even if she was behind a whole year. I say that to say that when you ask mortgage companies to put it on the back of the loan, a lot of times they reset the loan. In some cases, they add the late fees, interest, and stuff to it. So the loan ends up being more. I would just say before asking them to do that, consider refinancing. If you refinance your loan, a lot of times you'll come out better than if you ask the current mortgage company to put it back on the back of the loan, because putting it on the back of the loan is similar to a loan modification. And the thing about it is, what people fail to realize is over 80% of loan modifications that are requested by homeowners are actually denied. The reason why that they are denied is because most mortgage companies know that they have the homeowner locked in for 30 years. So in many cases, they feel like the homeowner has signed to that agreement of that payment when they first purchased the home. So a lot of mortgage companies don't want to bite, and they don't want to accept a lower payment when you've already agreed to pay whatever amount it is. Let's say hypothetically you agreed to pay $4,000 a month and you're having hard times. Now you want to adjust it to $2,500. That's $1,500 a month. In a year time, what's that? $16,500. So mortgage companies don't want to lose money. They want to gain money. So in their eyes, they say, oh, we'll consider it. They ask you to fill out this paperwork. They ask for a hardship letter, your last 2 bank statements, your tax returns. Only to 80% of the time deny it. So I would tell you firsthand, instead of putting the payments on the back of the loan, I will refinance if you can. If your credit's good enough, if you can, because sometimes you'll find out that you will come out better if you refinance rather than if you just put the payments on the back of the loan, especially depending on how many payments it is, what does the equivalent to, because keep this in mind. Those missed loan payments, along with the late fees and the interest and penalties, are being added to the back of the loan. It's just not that missed payment. So if you miss, let's say 4 months and you owe $2,000 a month, that's $8,000. It's not just $8,000 they're putting on the back of that. They're tagging on late fees and all that and the interest of that time. So because it's principal and interest. So they're adding interest and the late fees on top of the missed payments to the back of the loan, which sometimes can make it be a little more. So again, coffee is for closers. I don't drink coffee, but I'm a closer. So I'm going to be back with my topic of the day. All right, yeah, I'm back with my topic of the day. This topic that I'm about to talk about may be a little sensitive to some people. I was holding a conversation with a friend of mine, and we were having this discussion. I was speaking to a male and a female about this very discussion that I'm about to talk to you about. Now, this topic is family versus happiness. And we was holding a discussion about males and females and families and happiness. And I just analyzed everything. And I just basically said that in many cases, men who are truly into their family, who truly love their family. Many men are not happy in relationships. Okay. And I'm just making a statement because I speak to a lot of men. They're not happy in relationships. They stay because of the equity that they built up, their investments, their children. And I've questioned, why stay if you're not happy? And a lot of times men would sacrifice their happiness for their family. I know some men who said they stayed in relationship because they didn't want any other men raising their kids. I know some other men say they wanted to be there to make sure that the male figure of them being there was important, especially when it pertains to their daughters. So many men tend to sacrifice their happiness for their family. In other situations, when I'm speaking to women, a lot of women tend to sacrifice their family for their happiness. And then they'll justify by saying, well, all I need is his money. As long as I'm getting his money, I'm good. I don't need no man. I'm good, da da da, all this other stuff. But a lot of times they're really sacrificing the the character of their children, the protection of their children. Sometimes they don't even realize it. And they always say, well, but here's what I also said to both people, the man and the woman. Other races go through the same thing. You have the Hispanics, white, Indian, Asian. They go through the same thing. They go through infidelity. They go through being unhappy and everything. I think what people don't understand is unity brings wealth, whether you realize it. It's a universal law, people. You all don't get it. Like, you know, you can build more together and think out more with two or more heads than anything else. But sometimes people don't seem to realize it. So why is that? Why is it that a man will sacrifice his happiness for his family? And in many cases, some women will sacrifice their family for their happiness. Because over 80% of the divorces that occur, a lot of them is because people are not happy. Yes, some of it's become a fidelity and they say finances, but the finances go back to happiness. Now, here's the thing. Many of our great, great, great grandparents didn't have the finances that we have today. They didn't have the money. But it seems like money is the root of all evil, and money is the cause of many unhappiness. You have so many people who say, I don't want to struggle anymore. I've been down that road. But here's the thing. Truth be told, whether you're by yourself or with somebody, you're going to struggle one way or another. It's a universal law. There are millionaires who sometimes go through hardship, financial hardship, and they're millionaires. There are people who are broke who go through financial hardship. But here's the thing. Also, when you look at how men and women are, you have men who will, like I said, they'll sleep in a car, they'll sleep in a room, to be with their family, to be protected. You have some women who want to live comfortable. Once they get the taste of luxury, they never want to go back. And I don't blame them because luxury is fantastic. Being comfortable is great. If it gets too cold, sometimes I don't want to get out of my bed, but I have to get out of my bed. You understand? Because it's a necessity in order to be productive and to do the things that I need to do to accomplish the goals that I want to accomplish. I go back to say happiness versus family. Which one is more important to you? Is it your happiness or your family? Because sometimes when you have children, when you're in relationships, when you're married, you're going to sacrifice one in many cases. Not always, but sometimes one. Because here's the thing. We can't always be happy in this life when we're with people. Unfortunately, think about this. You as your own person, you don't always make you happy. Think about that. Many people have gone through depression, not happy with themselves, not happy with life. That's just them dealing with them. So why do some people expect that another person is going to make them happy? Because that's just having a false sense of reality and somewhat being delusion. Reality is whatever is going on. You have other races, like I said, who endure and go through so much together, whether they are happy, unhappy. They have a stick to itiveness with them. They have a mindset that no matter what they go through, they're going to stay there with each other. Why we don't have that, people? You understand? Because is it still we're dealing with issues of slavery? We still dealing with the trauma. We've never seek therapy. I mentioned this before, and I'll say this today. A lot of us need therapy and counseling. We need to seek out the help one way or another. Because whether you realize it or not, the decisions you make, whether you sacrifice your family or your happiness, affects your children. And then we look at these young people today and wonder why they act so crazy, do the crazy stuff like wear hoodies during the summertime and wear short sleeves during the wintertime. We wonder why they are going through the mental things that they're going through. Have we ever thought about that we are the reason why? See, a lot of us don't want to take a look of ourselves and say anything that we did wrong, when the truth is it has a lot to do with what we done and what we haven't done. Just like sometimes in some cases some fathers have not been there physically for their daughters, for their sons, and then the sons and daughters get influenced by peer pressure or the streets or other people, and then when things happen, we don't look at ourselves. We don't say, oh, I could have been there enough. We're so busy criticizing the other parent rather than realizing sometimes it ain't the other parent, it's us. Because here's the thing, why wait on someone else to do something that you can do, especially when it pertains to your very own? You can't leave stuff in other people's hands, people, because other people are not going to do things the way that you do. Other people don't have your vision, your mindset for you, your family, your children. So I say that to say that when it pertains to family versus happiness, you can have happiness with your family, but sometimes we don't have happiness with our family because so many of us are so selfish out there. We don't even realize how selfish we are. It's all about us, us, us. When I look online a lot of times and I see a lot of this male versus female, it's all about whatever sex is talking. They think it's all about them, when truthfully, it's all about both. See, the problem is you don't consider the other person because you only thinking about how you feel. And that's the reason why so many things fail in this life, whether it's relationship, whether it's trying for business, whether it's, what I'm saying? When you are unselfish about your family and everything, your happiness comes. Because here's the thing, though, you're supposed to be God, family, and business. Didn't say nothing about happiness because truth be told, we're not going to always be happy in this thing called life that we have. Whether you're by yourself, with a spouse, uh, with a lot of people, nobody is going to always make you happy. Your family ain't going to be able to do it. Your parents, your children, your siblings, your spouse. You're the only person that can make you happy. But it shouldn't be a battle of family versus happiness. But like I said in the beginning, men will sacrifice their happiness for their family. Many women will sacrifice their family for their happiness. When it all boils down, ain't nobody really happy, and the family is broken in many ways because we're not focused on that. We're focused on us. And then we wonder why our grown kids are the way that they are. We ain't looking at ourselves when we really need to look at ourselves. There's so many people that are older that really mentally are immature. So many people who are older who don't want to look at them. They want to point the blame and talk about other people. They want to say this person, that person. They want to talk, oh, it was my mother, it was my father. Yeah, but once you identify the problem, you should be focusing on the solution. But the problem is we complain so much about the problem, the cause of the problem, that we're not focusing on the solution. Truth is, you need to focus on the solution to bring yourself happiness, to bring the family together. Because when it all boils down, when you pass away on this earth, it's your family that's mainly at that funeral. It's your family that's hurting the most. You know what I'm saying? And then people are definitely not happy when you pass away. But the truth is, while you're living right now, you're compromising your family for your happiness when you really should compromise your happiness for your family. So I just say that to say, don't have a battle of family versus happiness because, again, it should be God, family, and then anything else, business, sports, whatever. But God, family. Your happiness comes from within. Your happiness comes from loving you first. Your happiness comes from, identifying the problem and finding a solution. And in many cases, like I said, we all need therapy. Seek therapy because sometimes that's going to be the only solution because there are many people, whether you're single or not, who are going through depression and they can't make themselves happy. So if they can't make themselves happy, what makes you think anybody can make them happy? Reality is they can't. So I hope you all got the message on that because we all need to do a self evaluation. All right, y'all. I'll be back with my closing remarks. Ha ha. Good job. All right, y'all. I'm back with my closing remark. Again, I want to thank you all for joining me each and every Friday at 12 noon Please follow me again on all social media platform. That is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Threads, Snapchat, TikTok, and YouTube. And also, please follow my YouTube channel if you're not following it already. I thank you all for that. But so here's my recap, y'all. I talked about tax equity. If you are selling a property and you are getting a proceed from the sale of that property, please speak to your CPA and understand that that proceed is not just free money. It is going to be taxed. So make sure you take out the amount to pay your taxes, because if you don't, you're going to be like me crying the blue when you owe taxes, and it ain't good owing taxes. So understand, equity is tax, y'all. It's not free money, no matter how much you get. All right. And then I just talked about family versus happiness. Like, which one are you choosing? It shouldn't be a choice between neither, to be honest with you. But unfortunately, it is in many cases, because unfortunately, there are many people who are together who are not happy. There are many people who are not together who really need their family. Listen, y'all, please do some self-evaluation of yourself, because only you know your situation better than anyone, and seek the help that you actually need. All right. I thank each and every one of you all for joining me today. I will be back next Friday, but the Friday after next, I won't, because it's Christmas. Time is flying, y'all. We're about to go into 2025. And make sure you'll follow me. And if you need to find me on any social media platform, follow me and check out my website, DamonTheAgent.com. All of my social media icons are on my website. You can definitely click on there and find me on there. I thank you all for joining me. This has been Real Estate, Real Talk, Real Live. Real life and real live with your host, myself, Damon the Agent. I appreciate you all, and I shall see you next week at 12 noon. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.